And I forget what you asked me.
It's totally not what people expect.
He's completely nuts.
He's sexy and he's getting to be the coolest version of myself that I could ever be. Like
this, like just weird idiosyncratic things just kind of pop up for no reason.
It's made for the people that can only last like a half hour before they fall asleep at night.
Nice to meet both of you.
Hi, nice to meet you.
So, love both of your work in previous projects leading up to this. So, it was a foregone conclusion I was going to watch this when I saw the trailer, but I was not prepared for how much fun the show was actually going to be and how different it was from what I was expecting. When you got the script for it, what was your interpretation of what this story was going to be like? And Cristin, I'll start with you.
I'm so glad to hear that. Also, because we haven't really spoken to a lot of people who watched it, so it's very exciting to hear that. And I think that like I found it to be very unexpected. That I think I would begin to read it and be like, oh, I think I know what this story is. I think I know where this is going. And then just one thing after another would take a wild left turn and would explore certain themes that I didn't even know were being explored or presented. And then also Will was attached, and I've worked with Will before. I'm the biggest fan of Will. Like knowing that it was the two of them and these scripts, it was kind of like a no-brainer to sign on.
This phone belonged to a kid who went missing down here 15 years ago. It belonged to Sam Wofford. Sam and his mom and his dad and his girlfriend arrived at this resort on Christmas night. But then the next morning, he's gone.
And Will, for you, you've done comedy, you've done drama. This is kind of a challenging story to perform in because it's this mystery, but it's also this relationship story where you kind of see things fracturing at the beginning. How did you feel about playing this? Were you approaching it more from a dramatic standpoint, a comedic standpoint? What was your approach?
Man, I never really think of it that way too much. I feel like that's when I start to like just cut off choices and possibilities when I think of it that way. And so I know a lot of people can probably think of it that way, and it opens up things for them. For me, it's like I start getting into the idea of the story, and I think that the thing that I really like sort of latched onto was just moment to moment and just being as available as I can and responding to whatever, our scene partners are giving us, but then also just letting random things happen, which I think sometimes that's where the comedy comes from, is like just weird idiosyncratic things just kind of pop up for no reason. Especially when you're dealing with something that is, where the stakes are very real and sort of quotidian in that way that we can all kind of understand and sort of relate to in certain ways. And so, that's sort of how I approach it. It's just like try to stay open and see what happens. And if something happens and it's funny, great. If something happens and it happens to like hit you in the chest, great. But just letting whatever happens happen rather than like getting too invested in what I think the scene should be.
It's a crazy story. It's an over-the-top mystery, and there's all of these elements where you're both playing like amateur detective, and it's not going the way that you would expect in a traditional detective story. But the chemistry between you two, between the two characters, people that have been married for 10 years and trying to kind of restore that, was that something that came natural when the two of you were working together on this, or was that something that kind of evolved as you played it out?
Well, I would say both. This is our second time playing a couple on the brink of divorce. And I feel an enormous amount of trust in Will, just as an actor, as a person. I think we have like a really beautiful shorthand with each other, having done such a difficult play with each other for such a long time. And I think that like, I also was very interested in that dynamic, that it's not that it's completely loveless. If anything, it's harder because they're just like best friends at this point, but maybe not like a couple. And I think that that's such an interesting dynamic to explore.
Do you want to get out of here?
My daughter wanted to spend Christmas here, but she didn't want to spend it with me.
Nice to meet both of you.
Hi, nice to meet you too.
So this show is not what I was expecting at all. With The White Lotus coming out last year, everybody has this expectation for what a resort set show is going to be, but it's so totally different. And with the time shifts and everything that's going on, it's very unexpected. Was it, though, as much fun to make as it is to watch?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think even, it was so fun being on set, but even being off set with the cast was a dream, because a lot of it is just me and Sky in the show. Like 99% of our scenes are together. And so it was really nice to bond with the cast on the weekends.
And Skyler, you're on one of my other favorite shows that's on TV, and this is such a different character from that one. So playing this role, did you channel any real life experiences to play this character? Was this something, where did you find this character?
Yeah, it's always fun. Like every character got to be an extension of yourself. So Gemstones is definitely fun, like getting to be the coolest version of myself that I could ever be, like just riding motorcycles and being a stuntman. But that's probably kind of a departure from me. And Sam was probably a lot closer. And especially as the episodes went along, it felt like Andy just started writing more and more in my voice. And it always felt very close. And it never felt far away to kind of connect to Sam, for sure.
Was this something like, it's funny, but it's dramatic? Was this something that you approached this as a comedy that happened to be serious, or was this something that was a drama that was funny, or did that never even come to mind?
I think, yeah, I mean, I think it definitely came to mind for me. I think playing the drama was important, because then when the improv came or the lines came, there was room it was just funny because you're playing it straight, or you're trying to play it straight. And I think that's where the comedy kind of shines through.
Yeah, that for me, that's always the funniest, that, kind of just not playing to the jokes or the comedy of it. And this really is like a very plot driven show with a lot going on. It's really kinetic, and that helps. And Andy's writing kind of is that way, where it's not, it is funny in an organic way. But I think like those first few scenes we filmed, there's always like those first day jitters of like, oh, I want it to be funny, or I want to make the crew laugh, or whatever it is. And then once we settled in and kind of like got the journey going, you get that comfort level to just kind of relax into it. And yeah, and especially Sam, I'm kind of the straight. Nina's really the motor of the whole thing. So I'm just kind of sitting there getting to be the straight man anyway. So I never had to like really play too. It's sort of the surrounding characters, I feel like, that were offering like those stronger comedic performances.
Yeah.
We both are awesome, and it's a great show. Love the first 4 episodes. Can't wait to check out the rest, and congratulations, and thank you for your time.
Thanks, man.
You.
You ever feel like something from the past is missing from your future?
I'm gonna get some answers.
Hey, come back here!
How you doing?
All good.
We're all good.
So you two are great in this show. I absolutely loved the performances that you brought, and it was very unexpected, just because I've been saying this to everybody so far today, like The White Lotus kind of set up this precedent for what these resort themed shows are going to be.
Yeah.
And when you start watching it, you realize there's this mystery element. Then you start to think, who are the good guys, who are the bad guys? But it's much more layered than that. And there's the big twist 4 episodes in where things kind of shift around. What was the experience for both of you when you got this script? What did you think about it?
Yeah, it's just completely nuts. I just read it and I was just saying to Luis, I read it and I was like, how are we gonna do this? How are they gonna do this? This is crazy. It sounds crazy. It looks crazy. I've never seen anything like this before. So obviously when you first get into a thing that you don't know, it's like, so how do you do this? And looking at the final result, I was like, whoa. I mean, it's crazy. I've never seen something like this before on TV. And like you said, The White Lotus, but then that reference completely goes away because this is another thing. And that's what I loved about the show, because also that was my first reference. I was like, oh, White Lotus. And then when I started working in the show, I was like, no, this isn't. anything like that. This is another thing, and it's crazy, and I love it.
A lot of the characters, there's the two timelines that we've got at the beginning. You've got current day and the 15-year, for the two of you being in both of the timelines. Was that something that's difficult to balance? Like, where am I? Am I thinking 2007? Am I thinking today? Was that difficult to do?
I think it was fascinating, like it was really cool to have the opportunity of play a character with 15 years difference, not just because of the makeup and the aging process, but also to change, well, to ask yourself what changes inside of you, like in your energy, in your motivations, in the way you see life, the way you relate to other people. And specifically in my case, it was like a completely different character, because when Balthazar is young and he's working as the head of security of the Osena Vista, he's joyful and he's in control and he's sexy and he dresses incredibly, and 15 years after that, after realizing that he was not a good detective, or he thinks he was not a good detective and he was good for nothing in that way, he's completely depressed. He's a completely different human being. But then this opportunity arrives of solving this case for a second chance, and that you see how the light in his eyes is back. And I think that's pretty interesting.
But what if there aren't any answers?
Well, there have to be. Because otherwise, what is the fucking point?
Andy, nice to meet you.
Likewise, man.
So did not know what to expect when I first saw this trailer. I'm thinking, well, we got the White Lotus, so now there's a precedent set for resort-themed dramas and comedies and things like that, but it's not anything like that. You've obviously got that setting, but there's this fun mystery going on here, the time shifts and everything between the different elements of the storyline. How did this story come together? Like, where did this come from?
It started, some version of it started 8 years ago as a feature that I wrote. It was not a very good feature, but it had something there. It was about a kid, Sam, who goes to a resort with his parents on vacation and then strikes up a friendship with another older couple who eventually became Emma and Noah. And it was far more of just kind of this like charmed little indie, no mystery, no natural disaster, no other elements in there. And then over the next 7 or so years, I put it away in a drawer and I would just go back. I would go back to it and like blow it up and look at it through a new lens, look at it through the lens of where I was now in my life. And over those 7 years, I got married and I had now 2 kids, and the world shifted drastically. And I always let all those things kind of filter in there.
Yeah, and it's what I really love about it is that there's kind of an expectation that you see on television that dramas are an hour long, comedies are half an hour. So when you see a series that kind of straddles a different time than you're expecting to be one way versus the other, but those shorter chapter lengths, was that something that was always intentional to break it off at those certain points, or what was the decision behind that?
Yeah, I always I wanted to do that in some earlier stages, and then I made it. But then like all my favorite shows that from even present day shows now, like The Bear is the most recent example of that. But a few years ago when I was working on this, Fleabag or Atlanta or like the all my favorites, and Barry, like they're all half hours, but I also they're all made by people who have the cred to say, no, I want to do the half hour kind of left of center drama comedy. Mm-hmm. And I didn't have that at all. But that's where luckily I have great partners in Sam Esmail and Chad Hamilton and Sarah Matt at Esmail Corp. There was an hour-long pilot that we first started working, a version of the pilot we first started working with, and it was one of their suggestions. They're like, what if it turned into a half hour? And this was right after Sam had made Homecoming, which is like a 25-minute episode thriller, or like a paranoid 70s thriller, and that it isn't at all a comedy really, but I feel like once I was told you can do this by them, that's when I just fully committed to this idea that was kind of like on the edges of what I would want to do. And I know that as an audience member, I have 2 kids that I put to bed, and I have about 35 to 40 minutes before I pass out on the couch at night. So it's made for the people that can only last a half hour before they fall asleep at night. So
Well, I definitely was in after episode 1. I was hooked by the end of episode 4. I can't wait to check out the rest. Congratulations on the show. It's great. And it's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Vacation from the kids?
Oh, no, kids. That ship has sailed. It's our 10-year anniversary.
Say this, as they will get you everything you need.
Oh, even heroin?
Sorry?
Just joking.
That's a bad joke.
I'm starting to forget who I am.
No work, no stress, no regrets.